Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Christ in Me with Addie, where we seek to live out a John 3:30 life. John 3:30 says, "He must become greater and greater, and I less and less." Let's be real. In today's world, it can seem impossible to live out what the Bible calls us to do. Not only can it be hard to understand sometimes, but finding the time to read the Bible, to understand the Bible, to know the Bible, it can just be overwhelming. So I created this podcast so we could walk alongside each other, share some of our stories and struggles, but also where the Lord is bringing us, so that we can encourage one another and stay rooted in His Word. It's my prayer that you walk away from each episode saying, I know that is Christ in me. I know Christ in me. So let's get into today's topic. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Christ in Me with Addie. We are quickly approaching the end of season 2, everyone, and I'm excited to end on a high note. I actually have a guest today, and we'll get to her very soon. But something that I've kind of been taking on in my own personal life is this adventure of really looking at ingredients, looking at what the products I'm using actually contain. And I've really been praying a lot about this, like how to steward my family well, how to educate others on this as well, because I've come to find it's a huge passion of mine. So, needless to say, when I found our guest's Instagram through a random reel, I was like, I got to get this girl on the show. So welcome, Thuy. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Of course.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe start by saying who you are and a little bit about your background?
All right. So my name is Thuy, and I actually was born and raised in Vietnam, and I moved to the States when I was only 15. I went to high school and all of that. I always struggled with some types of condition growing up. Nobody could understand why I used to get all these crazy stomach pain.
Mm.
And when I moved to the States, it got better. So people would just always say, oh, maybe because the food was dirty, something about my stomach.
Mhm.
Um, so then when I moved here and it got better, I didn't think of it much, but I still have like autoimmune like flare ups here and there. But when you're in college, you don't care, your diet
Yeah.
is, bacons and fries and things like
Yeah.
that. But then I got married. Then that's when my sister actually, she was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Wow.
And she was only 17. So that just like rocked my world.
Mhm.
I just couldn't understand, like, she had the types of brain cancer that only old men would get. It's called glioblastoma, and it's very, very rare for her age, but not so rare anymore
Yeah.
because the rate is actually increased. Like younger and younger people are getting it. It's very, a very aggressive types of cancer.
Mhm.
So they gave her about 3 to 6 months with surgery and chemo and radiation.
Wow.
So she didn't have much to live. And so at that point, I was like, no, like there gotta be a way. I have to look into this thing.
Mhm.
And so I did my own research, and wow, like my eyes were wide open
Yeah.
to so many things. And coming from a third world country to the United States healthcare and the doctors are the best of the best, like we almost like idolize them.
Yeah.
And when that happened, and I saw the healthcare system, and I saw how the hospitals makes money and pharmaceuticals, and I looked into things, and I'm just like, wow, this is a huge, big corruption
Yeah.
that I never saw. I never saw it until it personally affected me.
Mm.
And so that's why you see a lot of natural remedies on my page.
Mhm.
I talked about a lot of natural things because of that, because of my sister, and they gave her very limited options with chemo
Yeah.
and radiations. So we always search for like other alternatives.
Mhm.
So we looked into, different herbs and different things to do with her. So she actually lives after she got diagnosed, she lived another 3 years, which is way above of what other people said. She went through a lot. So during that time, also my son, which you can't even get an allergy test until your kid is 6 months.
Yeah.
So then, at that point, I was just praying for wisdom. So the Lord really, he's still good. He gave me wisdom where I was like, I think he's allergic to the things I'm eating because I breastfeed. So, and whenever I eat certain things, he breaks out. And I see it immediately, his stomach will hurt. He will cry. This kid don't cry. My kids, he's so good. So then I cut out eggs, weeds, and dairy. So it was hard for me. Breastfeeding, I need the fat, I need everything, but I was so limited. It was very difficult, but I did it. And it was later on confirmed by the allergists, he was allergic to the exact 3 that I cut out.
Wow.
So it was just, when they said, listen to the moms, you should listen to the mom,
Yeah.
But during that, on top of my sister, I was just mad. I was angry at how everything's set up.
Yeah.
So I was determined to do everything I could to heal my son. And he is now healed. Thank the Lord for, his grace. But after 3 years of, I kid you not, just watching him suffer. And so I promised myself that, I'm not going to be ashamed of my story anymore. It's time to let other moms know. And yeah, I get slashed back all the time. When you're putting yourself out there on Instagram, you're going to get negative feedbacks no matter what. It doesn't matter. You could try to please all 100 people, but there will still be probably 2 or 3 that's still not going to be happy with you.
Right.
So I don't care anymore. So I just put my story out there, and the comments from other moms, it's heartbreaking. But anyway, so that lead me to just trying to, helping other moms, especially, just encouraging them. Because it's hard to standing up, against the norm.
Right.
Even your family, even your spouse. It's not easy to have that strong conviction and standing your ground. Had Instagram in college, I stopped using it. And then I started using it again just last year.
Wow.
And it's just
you've exploded. Yeah. What's your follower count up to? Not to put you on the spot, but it's pretty big.
It's 524, I think.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I just
so
want to say it's amazing to hear your background and a little bit about, I didn't know that about your sister or even about your son. I just saw your content. I love the natural, holistic feel. I think it's so important to hear perspectives, especially for myself, being someone born and raised in America, to hear perspectives from people elsewhere, not just to see how you view medicine that we have here in the States, but also your experience coming into it. So
exactly. Even, when I went through what with my sister, with my son, I didn't know what the Lord had in store for me until, I had the conviction last year where so many of my friends, because I had my baby when I was only 23, a lot of my friends just still in their dating phase and not having their babies yet. And now they start having babies. So they come to me for advice.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of them didn't know a lot of things. So I just kind of started giving them advice. And I'm like, why not make a page, helping other moms too. So that's what I did. And yeah, it just it's hard to be so against the norm, but I think it's just so needed. And as you could see, a lot of I have 500,000 followers within, all coming up September 1st would be 12 months.
Yeah.
It's because people are sick. I don't know, like it's your family's health and nobody responsible for it but yourself. Like you said, like stewarding your children, your husband, you know, your family, yourself. And so to me, that was important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think having a perspective of someone from the States again, I'm so thankful for the medicine that we have.
Yep.
I
Mm-hmm.
traveled to Kenya 2023, and I
Mm-hmm.
actually got very sick there, and it was the first time I ever experienced like actually not having medical care available to me. And it
Yeah.
was so frightening. So I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for the modern medicine we have, but at the same time, I'm so thankful for accounts like yours that
Yeah.
teach us there are options
Mm-hmm.
outside of extremes in some cases, but
Yeah.
I am thankful that that's available to us. But I think
Yes.
the biggest thing I wanted to talk to you about, and something that really spoke to me on your account, is the awareness you're bringing to ingredient bases and things that are very
Mm-hmm.
common in the States.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you, before we get into like some of those products and some of the simple swaps we can make, I
Yeah.
wanted to just say to anyone that's listening, I hope that this conversation doesn't incite fear in you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
This is something to kind of remind us of what the Lord has created, what He has
Yes.
provided, and how it's actually healing and helpful to us.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, like when I was in Kenya, I remember I had something stung me that was poisonous, and I felt the
Mm.
effects immediately in my body. We were 3 hours away from any hospital.
Wow.
They were worried because it was my left arm, which is close to my heart. So if the venom was in my bloodstream, it was going directly to my heart. So it was a
Wow.
scary situation. But all that to
Mm.
say, I remember when there wasn't any care nearby and all they could do was pray over my arm, I
Mm.
felt like that wasn't enough. I thought I was going to
Mm.
die. You know what I mean? When
Mm-hmm.
actually
Mm-hmm.
prayer sometimes, most times, is like the greatest weapon, the greatest
Yeah.
power, the greatest
Yeah.
medicine that we have. And so I just kind of want to take us back to that and remind us all of what the Lord has created, what He has provided,
Yes.
in addition
Absolutely.
to how
Mm-hmm.
brilliant He's made our human minds to also
Yes.
provide care. So, why
Right.
is striving to cut toxic products out of your life so important to you as a mom?
So, like I said, when I started with my son, so I start learning about his eczema and how certain things can triggers allergies. For example, fragrances, certain ingredients in
Mhm.
laundry detergents, or
Yes.
all the plug-ins that I was having at home,
Hmm.
and it's just like all of that, it started opening my eyes that wow, like like these things, why are they even like legal? Like
Yep.
nobody told me. Like it should have, how like cigarette packs it has like warning. So I feel
Yes.
like all these products should have that. But so I started cutting out all the toxins just little by little, because we
Mhm.
were one income family. We're still one income family. So it was hard just to buy all these expensive products, especially was, my son is going to be sick. So about 5 years ago, this toxin things, it wasn't like this, like nowadays.
Yep.
So a lot of the brands wasn't even there. So I had to make a lot of things myself. And that's why I know so much, is because I started making things and looking up ingredients. For example, making my own laundry detergent. Like now you have brands that using non-toxic and it's actually
Yes.
works. Like so um so that's why for me it was for helping him. And then I have other kids and I was pregnant, and and my husband suffered from horrible allergies too. So just simple swaps like that, little by little, we saw results. Like my husband allergies got better. Like you said, it can be very fearful
Mhm.
approaching this.
Yeah.
It's so easily just to say, oh, this is all toxic, or everything is toxic. It is, everything is toxic.
Yep.
But I have a rule where we do 80-20. So 80% of the time we do healthy things,
Mhm.
and 20%, let's say we're going on a trip. I'm not going to stop my kids from eating Chick-fil-A. They could
Yeah.
have Chick-fil-A.
Mhm.
I'm not going to stop them from enjoying candies with their cousins because their cousins eat candies. Like,
Yeah.
so that falls into my 20s. And I don't stress. Even if
Mhm.
sometimes that week we do 50-50, I really, and I know that I try my best. And that week, okay, let them have fun, because stress is more, it will damage your health way more than any of these toxins could.
Yep.
So that's why I always encourage moms, start little,
Yeah.
for example, laundry detergent, simple, because you wear it 24/7, you need to swap it.
Yep.
So then you could make it. There's recipes out there. I've made it before. Or you can buy it. And I feel like, I buy it now because it's the same cost and it saved me making it. So I buy it now. But little by little, you run out of shampoo. Okay, try to find a brand. Just little by little. Once you run out of things, instead of buying the stuff from the store, look, either you could make it or you could buy it. There's so many brands out there now that, that I love. I personally love. There's so many brands. And so, yeah, but that's, and it's so important because our kids are, or in general, all of our kids are getting sicker and sicker. And it's very, very sad. Like, I don't want my kids to be one of those statistics, like pre-diabetes, obesity. Like, I don't want that. So
I think a term that's trending on Instagram is being in your crunchy era or being like a crunchy mom. Have you heard this?
Yes.
For anyone listening, it's basically just people who are hyper aware of ingredients. Maybe they're more of a homesteader. They make it themselves. I've seen a lot of like sourdough moms are in this crunchy phase. I see homemade Cheez-Its, homemade laundry soap, all the things. But I also get that sometimes like moms just don't have time for that. Or even if you're not a mom yet and you're listening to this and you're just an average woman or even a busy college woman, like wherever you fall in life, I've noticed that people are becoming very aware and very awake to what is in so many of our products. And when I really became awake to this, my husband, he gets like, we're really not sure if his eczema or psoriasis. Before we've gone in to have him like clinically diagnosed, we wanted to limit things that were causing the flare ups because we noticed his skin breaking out after, like, for example, laundry day. So then we connected it to this is probably the laundry soap that we're using. I grew up on Tide my entire life, had no idea that Tide was one of the most toxic products you could possibly use. To me, it's clean in my mind because it smells good and it's literally cleaning my clothes. Until I learned what was actually in it. And so we switched to an all natural laundry soap powder, and he hasn't really had any of those flare ups on his skin since. So again, I hope anyone listening out there, this conversation empowers you to educate yourself on these things. I know how overwhelming it can be going to the ends of the internet, trying to figure out what's best for your family. But again, I think that's where praying to the Lord and using him as your ultimate guide and resource first is so important. So, Thuy, what are some of the most, I know we said laundry soap, but what are some of the most toxic, common household products or like even foods that people are eating or consuming nowadays? And what are some alternatives if someone's looking to start small? Like, where would you tell them to start?
Right. So for food wise, I will cut out all kind of vegetable oil. There's no vegetable in it. But vegetable oil, swap out for avocado, extra olive oil, could cook with tallow or lard. I personally love tallow. Like, I cook with tallow a lot. And olive oil too. Make sure it's extra virgin olive oil instead of just the regular one, because then it has mixed with other oil.
I also learned recently that on your olive oil, you can tell if it's fake or real based on how many countries is listed where it's from. I don't know if you've tried that, but I've been really hyper aware of that as well, because some of it can be actually like canola oil that's dyed a little bit green and marked olive oil, which again should be illegal.
Exactly. It makes us so paranoid because of things like that. And so I try not to, so in my mind, my number one rule is I think back to the biblical time. Was it there? Extra virgin olive oil was there. Animals fat were there. I mean, all the sacrifices, like they eat all the fat, right? They burn the fat. So that's my kind of my rule. Like, did it exist in Bible time? Then if it did, then most likely it's safe to consume. So then I'll do that with my with the food, and then I switch out Teflon cooking wares because so it's easy, simple swap. So what I did is instead of buying a whole brand new set of pots and pans, I go to TJ Maxx. Just once in a while, when we have a budget, I'll pick up a new pot, then swap out the old one. And I did that for a couple months. And by 6 months, a year, I have a whole set brand new.
Yeah. And when she's talking about Teflon, guys, that's pretty much anything that is like marked non-stick. Anything that has that non-stick coating, you want to swap for like stainless steel instead because it doesn't have that chemical coating that makes it quote unquote non-stick.
Right, exactly. So that's why I do that in cast iron. I love cast iron too. So like, I try to simplify. So like, you don't need 10,000 different types of ceramic and Teflon, nonstick, this and that. You only need stainless steel and cast iron, and that's
utensils, right?
And
utensils are the same. Wooden utensils, not plastic utensils, stainless steel utensils.
Even silicones, I wouldn't trust that. I don't even trust silicone. So I use just stainless steel, wooden, and then bowls and stuff, like no plastics. Like I try to eliminate plastic out of our house, especially in the kitchen.
Can you share why that is? Like what actually happens when you use the plastic?
So the plastic, it's just so bad, even in our water bottles. So when you heat up, I guess the plastic pieces would then stick into your food. And when you consume it, the nano microplastic get into your bloodstream, and it's like your body don't detect it, right? So it's either your body detected and they create all these autoimmunes because it's a foreign thing, but your body don't know how to detox it. Right. So it stays in your body for years and years and years, and you have all these problems, and there's so many studies about microplastic and,
forever toxins.
Forever toxins. And so, especially for our children, it's also a hormone disruptor. And we hear children, especially girls, they start getting period early and earlier, and that has a long lasting effect their whole entire life. And so I try not to, I try to do my best as much as I could. And then the rest, just pray it. Like, just like, Lord, please
do
help them.
And pray the rest away.
Yes, yeah. So
that's good. So how about some other products? I know you mentioned some cookware. Some that I found in my personal life are like sunscreen.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not know how cancer causing sunscreen is.
Yeah. So it's actually a huge topic on my page because, we have demonized the sun so much. I grew up in Vietnam. And you know how strong the sun is? It's literally, it could burn your skin, right? It's because it's right near the equator. And I never heard of skin cancer ever in my life. Never, ever. And so when I came here, people was like, yeah, the sun gives you skin cancer. You got to slather all this, spraying it. And every time I spray, I feel like I taste it in my mouth. And I'm like, what is this? Like, I never use sunscreen. People don't use sunscreen over there. They do use cover. So they do cover their skin when their skin exposed too much to the sun. I've seen skin damage where you get wrinkles and, melasma, discoloration, but I don't believe that it creates cancer in your body. Maybe it brings out your cancer. It could be a possibility, but so I switched to tallow-based sunscreen. So the brand's called Sky and Soul, and I absolutely love it. It's definitely a little bit expensive, but like I said, I'm not too crazy about the sun exposure. So I put it on my kids when we're in the sun for a long period of time. We don't put it on every single day. So then it will last, last us a little longer. But so like that, and then our, especially women products, like we use, there's so much chemicals, makeup, fragrances. There's certain ingredients that's even banned in other countries, and we have it here, and it can, especially for us now that we get fibroid, we get so many, what's it called, like hormones related chronic conditions.
Mhm.
And we wonder why, because we grew up in that era where you slather your body with pink and body
spray
bath and
tans,
spray
all the
tan,
things. Yeah.
bath and body lotions, with all these chemical fruity smells. So I cut out all smells. So, all the stuff that I use is usually, if you look, it says sensitive. So usually when it's sensitive, it doesn't have the smell. So I stick to that. And I do try to read the ingredients to stay as much as, whole, clean ingredients as possible. And anything, with scientific names, then I will just go on Google and Google, okay, what is that? But they do have EWG platform that you can look up the ingredients. They also have Yuka. Yuka app. And I used to have Think Dirty. Yep. So I know people have said that these platform has been bought out, or you actually can pay for ranking. I'm not sure about that information, but I do go to it sometimes and just as a starting point. So I don't just blindly trust it, use it as a starting point and go from there. Like you should go from there and research. And so more. Those are the apps I recommend.
I used to use Think Dirty. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with these, Thuy's talking about different platforms where I'll talk about Yuka for a moment, but it's basically an app where you can scan any product, any barcode. And what I like about Yuka is it's actually French based. So it's not American based. Our US healthcare providers are not the ones who are kind of gauging what is healthy and unhealthy, because again, we know America is kind of a broken system. But this is a French-based company where a lot of the ingredients and products that are in things in the US are actually banned overseas. And so they have a lot more strict of like a grading profile, but you can scan any product and it'll tell you what's in it. But what I like about it the most is you can actually click on what's in it and all the individual ingredients. Because if you're anything like me, you don't speak these insane words that I can't even pronounce. So I at least get to learn what they are, what they're derived from, how they affect me. But the most important part that I think that Yuka offers is actually the scientific study, if you'd like to actually read where they're gathering their source for this information from. And I think that that is what's so important. So if you are looking at makeup in Target or whatever, you can scan it, see how it stacks up to other products, and then just make simple swaps for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've been able to honestly afford way more cleaner options than I thought I could. I'm someone who's in ministry, so it's not like I have this crazy budget or anything. I've been able to make super swaps where I can, and that's what's empowered me the most. But Thuy, I want to ask you, how has low tox living, that's what this whole episode is about, low tox living, how do you think that that honors the Lord? Like, why do you think this is important for Christian women, Christian families?
So I had this argument before with someone. They said, oh, God made our body to perfectly detox out of everything that we consume. I agree. Yes, I 100% agree that in our natural state, we definitely could heal. Our body is so amazing. I've seen my sister had 1/4 of the tumor grew 1/4 of her brain. Take it now. And she was perfectly fine. There was a hole in her brain. And so, it's just God made it so perfect that we definitely could heal given a perfect condition, given a natural, like you're supposed to. If you think about it, when you're sick, it's so easy just to be discouraged and just like, God, are you there with me? And I've had a couple women, like, they're strong in their faith, but when they're sick, they even admitted to me, like, when you're sick, you question your faith,
Yeah.
or something like that happened to your kids, you question your faith, right? So for me, it's honoring the Lord, because I'm taking care of my family the best as I could with the wisdom that's given by him,
Yeah.
because he asked you, whatever. He don't, he doesn't say that if you ask for money, I'm going to give you money. If you ask for a big house, I'm going to give you a big house. But he did say, you ask for wisdom, he gave
Yes.
you more than you could ever
Yes.
need,
Come
right?
on, James. James reference. Love it. That's
Yes.
good.
So look at Solomon. I mean,
Mhm.
think of him, the wisest man, because he asked for it.
Yeah.
And so when I asked for wisdom and the Lord gave me the wisdom, opening up my eyes, it's my responsibility now to take care of my family. And as Christian moms, I'm not saying to be fearful. I'm not
Yeah.
fearful at all. I know the Lord's in control. My kids, even me, if I get diagnosed tomorrow with cancer, all right, Lord, I know what you're doing. This is your plan, but I also have the wisdom. Okay, like I'm not just gonna blindly believe them for everything they said. Obviously, emergency situation, absolutely. I send my kids if something happened.
Yeah.
Even I saw my sister, she had great surgeons worked on her brain. 3 surgeries that she did,
Mhm.
and she came out perfectly fine. Thank God for the hand of good doctors, of good
Yes.
surgeons. But then I also know that I have the power where I know what herbs,
Mhm.
what I can do to help my body, And so I'm just so thankful for that wisdom from the Lord. And I feel like Christian moms, yes, believe, have faith in the Lord. But if he gave you the wisdom and open up the doors for you, like, you should use it
Yeah.
to minister to other people, to minister to yourself. To me, like, if someone comes to me, actually, a lot of people just like ask me for advice on Instagram. You're not supposed to, because you're not a medical professional or
Right.
whatever. But
Yeah.
I said, if I were you, this is what I would do.
That's because your confidence comes from God. Like you
Right.
feel confident to give them the knowledge that he has given you.
Yes. So, like, I know garlic is not going to hurt nobody,
Mhm.
you know?
Maybe a dog, but garlic's
Yes.
actually very anti-inflammatory for a
Yes.
human.
Yes, for human.
Yeah.
But so things like that. So, even with my husband, to minister to him, he's
Yeah.
an athlete. He loves running.
Mhm.
When we first met, he has horrible arthritis, allergies, and
Mhm.
now he's like, he said he feels his best. Like, he's a firefighter in Brooklyn, and you in touch with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And people would tap out during sick season. He never tapped out because of
Mhm.
he's sick. And it's because obviously we pray. I pray over his health,
Yeah.
but because I use my knowledge and wisdom also to minister into
Mhm.
him, and now he knows, like, he's on board with whatever that I do.
Yeah.
So it's great. It really is.
That's amazing. I think what you just shared is probably the most important part about this conversation is the wisdom that you get from the Lord when you ask. And I think that this can really translate to I come from a background of fitness and nutrition, and I think I
Mhm.
shared this with you a little bit
Mhm.
when we were messaging, but I used
Yes.
to do bodybuilding and
Mhm.
fitness competitions. And something that I was taught there is to just get the lowest calorie option, get
Mm,
everything that's marked sugar free, get
mm,
whatever is marked low fat, and I never looked at ingredients as like someone in nutrition. I only looked at macros. And yes,
mm,
I saw the weight loss goals that I wanted, but I
mhm,
also faced the most hormonal acne I'd ever experienced in
mm.
my life.
Yeah.
I had migraines. I had like other issues that were happening, and
Yeah.
I finally looked the way that I wanted on the outside. I was seeing the weight loss because at the end of the day it's about calories in and calories out. But the
Yeah.
ingredients that you're putting in your body, this is kind of the next step of my personal journey that I've taken on. And I'm cutting out, like sugar alcohols and subbing monk fruit and subbing just honey and syrup and like allotting for the extra calories for something more naturally derived. And all that to say, if you're on
Mhm.
like a health and fitness weight
Mhm.
loss journey, if you're listening to this conversation and you're inspired to really start the education, maybe you'll download Yuka after this conversation because
Yeah.
you want to start on education for your family or for yourself.
Mhm.
If you don't have the wisdom of the Lord walking alongside you in that, it's going to lead to fear.
Yeah.
It's going to lead to
Yep.
feeling overwhelmed, and it's going to lead to just constantly having this anxiety about everything you're putting in and on your body. And so I just think exactly what you shared, asking for God's wisdom and giving it over
Yeah.
to him at the end of the day is the best thing that we can do for ourselves.
Exactly, because stressing out, when you're in that fight or flight mode, like
Mhm.
they said, especially for women, your cortisone is
Yeah.
high, your adrenal fatigue, and all of that is not gonna work out if you try to
Yeah.
cut out all the toxins, yet you're stressed every single second.
Yeah.
So for me, like I said, you ask for wisdom, understand there's balancing to everything. We're in a cursed world.
Yeah.
This world is cursed, and it had sin, and all of this is toxin. It's almost like, the Lord is coming back soon. So it's like, you're coming to
Mhm.
that. And so just use your wisdom, and like I
Mhm.
said, you could do it. Like, this is for like empowerment. Like, this is
Yeah.
not to make you fearful
Mhm.
whatsoever. This is for you to start to look into things and know, okay, well, I have two options. Either I'm going to spend my money on this or this. So I rather choose the options that better for my health.
Yeah.
You're spending the same amount of money. To me, sometimes, like, it's the same cost. Even sometimes it's cheaper to make it at home,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
it's
found
better
that
for you.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's better for
absolutely.
you.
And,
Yeah.
just something to kind of prove that point even more. Another thing that really opened my eyes is I think you made this post actually. It was like a swipe post. I know you do a lot of reels, but this one was a
Hmm.
carousel, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
And you showed the ingredients in like common things in the US and then
Hmm.
ingredients in that same product in Europe. And
Right.
things that are allowed here in the US that aren't allowed in Europe are like food dyes. So
Mhm.
I've personally cut out red dye 40, which is highly linked to ADHD and
Yes.
other neurological issues, especially in
Yes.
adolescents and kids.
Yes.
But
Yes.
with that, also, like, I've cut out blue dye, yellow dye, like, those are chemicals, there's nothing natural about them, and I've switched to, like, blue spirulina powder, which has a ton of health benefits. I've
Yes.
switched to beetroot powder, which
Yep.
beet is loaded with antioxidants, so
Mhm.
before you panic, no, you can't taste it, and I get it at Whole Foods, and it's actually, like,
Yeah.
comparable price
Yeah.
to, the chemical, and it's like that knowledge empowers me, and
Yes.
now I'm not fearful of like, "Oh, I hope my family, like, doesn't get cancer someday." It very well could happen.
Yep.
I'm taking the steps that I think that I can take to limit it, and I believe that God wants us to have that knowledge and wisdom. And so, what are
Right.
some other, like, really simple let's just kinda list some off as we close for anyone else
Mhm.
who's like, "Okay, Tui, okay, Addie, you have me sold. I wanna make some swaps."
Mhm.
I'll just list a few that I've definitely cut out and then
Mhm.
maybe some alternatives, and then how about you share some too? But
Yeah, sure.
you had mentioned this. I completely got rid of all plugins,
Mhm.
like Bath and Body Works plugins, Glade plugins to make my house smell good, and I
Mhm.
got rid of candles. I
Yes.
love candles, but I think I didn't realize I was literally just breathing in toxins and putting it
Mhm.
into the air of my home. I started
Yes.
noticing soot on like door frames and stuff, and I was like, "That's what's in my lungs." So
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
rid of those. As great smelling as they are, I became so aware, and my husband has so many, like, respiratory allergy
Yeah.
issues. It's so bad for him, and I also cut out, trying to think, red dye, like dyes, like I mentioned. I cut out artificial sweeteners. I love having like a little coffee bar at my
Mm.
house. I like making little coffees and stuff, but I actually switched to a new kind of sweetener for my coffees that's monk fruit based
Mhm.
instead of aspartame or sucralose to make them those 0 calorie
Yeah.
drinks. But what are some others that are just really simple swaps people can do if they're interested?
Yeah, so symbol swap, even condiments at home, so
Mhm.
I do a lot of food swaps. I make a lot of things from home, if you haven't noticed, but even mayonnaise, So
Yes.
easy to make it
It's
at
so
home.
easy to make. I just
So
discovered homemade
easy.
mayo. Yeah.
It's just so easy. It tastes so much better.
Yep.
Also, I do ketchup. I have not yet find like a good barbecue sauce
Me
recipes
either.
yet,
Yeah.
but I'll be working on it. If I find one, I'll be sharing it.
Send it
But
to me.
yes, I'll send it to you. But so like symbol swap like
Mhm.
that. Even like my husband runs a lot, so Gatorades instead of Gatorades, I'll have
Yes.
water, coconut water with sea
Yep.
salt. Let's see what else we talked about laundry detergents, symbol swap. You can just Google the recipes if you want to make it, and if
Yep.
not, there's tons of options out there, truly free. I know what's the other one?
I use Charlie's and Molly
Yeah,
Suds.
Molly Suds. It's a
Yep.
great brand. So there's tons of options out there if you want to switch, and it's pretty much the same price.
Mine has
Uh,
been cheaper actually per load for a bag
yeah,
of the Charlie soap powder. So
yeah,
it's like literally saving us money to not make
yeah.
ourselves sick. So it's
Exactly.
great.
And then dishwashing
Yeah.
detergent, that's a huge thing
Yes.
because you don't want it to stuck on your food and you're literally consuming it day
Right.
after day.
Mhm.
So that I would swap that. What else? You know, so all the ingredients in the food, like when I go grocery shopping, I try to look at the back, and
Yeah.
if it's just wholesome ingredients, even sometimes it has sugar in it, like I'm okay with it. Like
Yeah.
just don't put fake sugar in it, like
Right.
aspartame and I don't know, even stevia. Sometimes I get the aftertaste. I don't like stevia, but I love monk fruit, so I'm
Yep.
on board with you. And so those are the swaps that I would make. For
Mhm.
makeups wise, honestly, that is just a personal
Yep.
preference. So, I know many brand like Crunchy. There's some at Ulta right now that's clean too. Like you
Mhm.
said, use the Yuka app, go through it and
Yeah.
see it for yourself. And sometimes you gotta have to test a couple things. So I think that's probably the most expensive swap you're gonna have
Yeah.
to do because you're gonna have to test it out.
Mhm.
Um, what else? And like medicines at home. So I try to do a lot of natural remedies, like, using simple ingredients, garlic, onions, honey,
Yes.
sage, rosemary, oregano, like
Mhm.
all the herbs that God made
Mhm.
that's so perfect that
Yep.
we can our body like absorb it and utilize it. So like it's how do you say it? Like it's just so natural.
Yeah.
It's natural, and so I do
Yeah.
that a lot. Like I swap out pretty much all of those when we need it. I have it. Like I
Right.
have like um Tylenol, like no dye, things
Mhm.
like that. I keep it in my home, but would it be my first choice? No. I'm gonna try other stuff, but after one times or two times and I see, okay, no, like again, that's wisdom. You
Yeah.
see, like, you just don't, because I know some people are stubborn, like, no, absolutely, like just natural, like no over counter medication. So I'm not like that. Like,
Yeah.
I try natural remedies, don't work. All right, I'm gonna go over counter. And
Yeah.
if the baby don't seem okay, you're going to urgent care with me. Like
Yep.
I have no problems of doing that.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the fragrances, like your perfume that you spray and
Yeah.
inhaling it 24/7. So, swap out for essential oils, or you don't have to use anything at all. I personally don't use anything at all, but once in
Mhm.
a while I use, clean perfume if I go to a wedding or a date night and things like that. Um, so the brand Dime, it's
Yeah.
actually, I like that brand, and
It's
it's
a great brand.
very, very cost effective. It's like under $50 and it smells good. Like if you
Yep.
want to smell good, that's the one. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much that. Like, there's so many resources nowadays
Mhm.
online that you can just literally you can look up symbol swapping list,
Yep.
and you get that and you just work on it one by one. Each month, whatever budget that you have, you put it aside to use that. And
Mhm.
so yeah, and I think this podcast is so great to empower other women to start taking charge of their health,
Yeah.
and God gave you a brain for a reason. Like,
Mhm.
like use your wisdom, like ask for wisdom and, protect your family.
Yeah.
This is your treasure. This is
Mhm.
a gift.
Yeah.
So that's what my mentality going into it. It's like I don't want my kids to suffer because of me willingly to ignore all these information out there.
Yeah.
Which I did. And I did hurt my son.
Mhm.
And I do think the Lord, it's his perfect plan, because without that, I wouldn't be here talking
Mhm.
about this to you or
Right.
empowering other women on my account to switch or to learn about it.
Yeah.
So I think everything happened because it's God's plan.
That's great. Well, thank you just for providing your wisdom, your story, and just sharing with us. I really hope anyone listening's not overwhelmed, and that you hear our
Mhm.
passion more than anything. Because I don't know, just once you become awake and aware of this situation that's happening,
Yeah.
it seems like amplified in the U.S. I think you would
Mm.
agree, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
makes you really want to be aware of what we're consuming, who is in charge of putting it out there, and like how we can take back our health journey, how we can take back how we steward our temples.
Yeah.
It's First Corinthians
Mhm.
6:19. I wrote it down.
Mhm.
Don't you realize that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? And
Yeah.
that is a gift that we get to steward these bodies well. And that's not to shame you into caring for your
Yeah,
temple,
exactly
but
right.
to just make you aware that that's what God desires for us. And so, Tui,
Yeah.
I think your content's just great. It gives people really easy and simple ways to make these small changes. I know we've
Mhm.
talked a lot about them, but if you actually want to make them,
Yeah.
Tui has a great Instagram. Would you share your handle so that people can find
Yes.
you?
So it's ministry underscore from underscore home.
Yeah.
So it's basically ministry from home. And it's funny because I don't even know how I came up with that. So that was just all God's wisdom too, because I'm like, it makes sense.
It
Ministry from
really is a
home.
ministry. Yeah, it is
It
a
is a
ministry.
ministry, and I'm from home. Like I'm a
Yep.
stay-at-home mom. So,
That's great.
but anyways, that even from God's wisdom. Yeah,
Yes.
like like I said, like anybody could reach out,
Mhm.
message me, like I or comment or anything. Like I try to answer every single one. If you truly there to learn or
Mhm.
to pick my brain, like go ahead, because I'm here for you. Like I'm here to help you. Um, and honestly, it's just something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I didn't have the intention to go viral
Mhm.
or anything like that. And it
It
just
was God's intention.
exactly.
Yep.
And I was like, the Lord really, really wanted me to
Yeah.
minister to you know, um, other moms.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanna say too, before we kind of close this out, that if you are a healthcare professional and you listen to this episode, we hope
Hmm.
you know that we love and appreciate all that you do to serve the community, to keep people healthy and safe, and, we genuinely do not believe that everyone in the medical field is corrupt or just
Right.
pushing drugs or anything like that. This is more so just to remind people of options, and like
Hmm.
you said too, moms have the best, like, internal decipher when it comes to knowing their own child, but also knowing the Holy Spirit and
Yes.
how He guides. And so we just want to say thank you to anyone who's put that time into
Hmm.
going into that career path, because we know how difficult it is,
Yeah.
how many different opinions there are out there, and how that can just be really overwhelming at times. But I think that again, the Lord wants to give those wisdom who are seeking it, no matter
Yes.
what you're facing. And so that's Tui's account, Ministry from Home. I also am going to link below everything we talked about. So if you'd like a link to download the Yuka app, I'm going to put that below. I'm
Hmm.
also going to put a link to my Amazon storefront where I've linked a lot of simple swaps. So we talked about
Yeah.
like Charlie's soap powder. So we mentioned Dime perfume, and I believe that she has that on her account. So between the two of us, there are options out there if you're
Yeah.
looking to get started like today on making those simple swaps. But thank you again, Thuy, for being here.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
You're just great. So I really hope this episode touches people and hopefully empowers even some moms out there who are feeling like they just can't do anything in their situation. And your testimony is so inspiring. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for watching Christ and Me with Addie, and I will see you guys next time.